I'm Mark, and I'm half-ass ready.
Well, I thought we'd talk about something that's kind of near and dear to us right now after the situation happened in New York, and we'll even say the situation that happened in Grand Rapids, Michigan with workplace violence. Um, Trying to get this video in between rainstorms. My tin roof makes it hard to hear, I know, so I'll try to articulate well this time, but it's apparently not going to stop raining here today, so we're going to knock this video out. But felt like it was important to talk about this. So I don't know how to put it delicately. I don't know how you prepare for workplace violence. It's a tragic thing that's happening now. It's been happening for a while. I mean, remember back in the 80s and 90s, we used to make fun about going postal, right? Postal workers would lose their mind and hurt their coworkers, right? But now you have this random people walking in because your company stands for something. I don't know. Don't want to get into the whys of it. Just thought we'd talk about what we can do to prepare for this kind of situation at our place of employment. So I wrote down a few things. I think first and foremost is your situational awareness. Being aware of what's going on around you, right? Look, I realize we all are busy at work. We all have a lot of things going on. But you know the sounds and the natural vibrations of how your place of work goes, right? So you need to be listening to yourself when something's different in those rhythms, right? Instead of playing solitary on another computer screen, maybe you need to turn your head around, look around the office, check your six every once in a while. You know what I'm saying? But the key to being situationally aware, which should be in every facet of your life, we nowadays don't pay attention to what's going on around us. We're very self-absorbed. So I think situational awareness and listening to the natural rhythms of your workplace, and when they change, you need to figure out what's going on. It's going to go a long way to saving your life, I think. So, and I mean, all your senses need to be visually aware. What you hear, what you feel, what you see, what you smell. You know, these things could make a difference in whether you go home that day or not, right? So, number two, don't panic, right? Fear can destroy you. Fear can also make you much more sharp. Get the adrenaline pumping. Get you in the place where you need to fight or flight, right? So, I'm not saying don't fear. I'm saying don't panic. Don't let the fear overwhelm you and get you killed. At this point, when you see this situation developing, panic can make you not notice things, right? So, if you're unable to engage, okay, if instead of fight, you're going to flight, let's take mental notes of what you see, detailed mental notes, so that you can relay this information to someone who can stop this threat later on, okay? And you can't take those mental notes if you're in a full-on panic, right? Not saying don't fear, saying don't panic, okay? Be smart. Gather that information and use it, okay? So we've decided to go full-on flight here. Most workplaces don't allow you to carry a firearm, and I'm not advocating that. So we've decided that we're going to flight. Escape is our plan. So it's your workplace. It may be the assailant's workplace. It may not be. Again, this is that detailed orientation that I want you to focus on. If this isn't one of your coworkers, he may not know all of your escape routes, right? But you do. So tomorrow, when you show up to work, take a minute and make this plan. Okay, what are my escape routes, right? And consider how you're going to get to those escape routes and have 2 or 3 or 4 in case one of those gets cut off, right? You may have to use a different one than the one you originally planned on. So have contingency plans, pace planning. And if you're going to escape, escape, okay? Now is not the time to go back and get your favorite coffee mug, or your pocketbook, or your cell phone, or your laptop. Those things can be retrieved when this situation is over. Get your ass out of there, okay? If escape is your option, escape. Look ye neither right nor left. Escape, okay? So your escape routes are cut off. So we're going to go with cover and concealment, right? So understand the difference between cover and concealment. Cover is concealment and protection, okay? In other words, a bullet can't go through it. Concealment is concealment. You're hidden, but you're still in danger, okay? Things can penetrate what you're hiding behind. All right? So it's your workplace. You know where to hide. Maybe it's a coworker. Maybe he knows where you're hiding. So now we're back on the escape plan. But if it's not, and you're going for cover or concealment, make sure you understand bullets can travel. Look, this is not the movies. When you see the cowboy flip the table over on its side and then hide behind it, and the man at the door's got a 45-70 and he's racking rounds through this table, and magically this 3/4 inch piece of wood is stopping bullets. Not true in real life, okay? Hollywood is not real life. So make sure you understand what you're hiding behind will or will not stop a bullet. And to be perfectly honest with you, it probably won't. Okay, so again, cover and concealment. At this point, if you're not in the fight mode, if you're in flight or concealment mode, as soon as you get an opportunity, you need to make that call for help. If it's 911, if it's Brother John, if it's, hey Joe, where are you going with that gun in your hand? Get that call out. Time is important in these things. It's going to seem like forever before 911 gets there. And it may be forever before 911 gets there. So but make that call as soon as you can, okay? Look, and if you decide to fight, we'll talk about fight now, because fight's pretty straightforward and pretty self-explanatory, right? Okay, you can't carry a weapon in your workplace, a firearm, put it that way. Other things make weapons, okay? Say you got a souvenir baseball bat with Sammy Sosa's signature on it hanging behind your desk. Okay, that's not a firearm, but that could become a weapon in a hurry. Say this guy comes in with a knife like the cat in Walmart. Look, know your break area. Where are the kitchen knives in your break area? Arm yourself with a knife. Arm yourself with a tool. Any kind of desk ornamentation that you want to put on your desk that can possibly become a weapon. Again, a guy with a knife, unless it's a pretty long knife, is going to have a hard time reaching you if you're carrying a baseball bat in your hand. or a broom handle. Look, a broom handle's not the toughest weapon, but it'll keep a knife at bay, okay? He's got 9 inches of knife, you got 48 inches of broom handle, okay? I'm just saying. And when you decide to engage this person, engage with everything you've got, okay? And that goes for firearms also. When you engage with everything you've got. Your life, your coworkers' lives depend on it. When you engage with all you got. If you're not going to do that, go back to the flight plan, right? Go back to the concealment plan. Go back to the escape plan. But if you're going to engage hard. Marine Corps hard. I mean, go at them with everything you got. Your life depends on it, okay? Other than 2A and self-defense stuff at work, okay? These are things you should have at work, okay? This we can prepare for, okay? You probably already do, okay? First aid stuff. A good basic trauma kit. Nothing wrong with having, look, if it's the one you carry in your car, bring it with you into work. There's nothing wrong with having a trauma kit. If you've been in concealment and the party is over, you might be able to save a coworker's life. Keep him alive or her alive long enough for the ambulance to get there, okay? So first aid's good. Talk to your coworkers, man. Everybody could invest in a really good trauma kit for your office or your store or wherever you work, right? Flashlight. Keep a flashlight. I'm not saying that the bad guy's going to knock the power out. In your place of concealment, you may need to see something up close that you can tend a wound you have or tend a wound a coworker has. You may need to see. So keep a flashlight at work. I keep one in my pocket. It's part of my daily carry. Should be part of yours, but you're you. And remember, because I'm not going to talk about this much longer because there's really nothing I can tell you to prepare you for this. This is going to be a shock to your system, okay? But remember number 2. Remember taking those details down in your mind. Memorize those details. Think about those details because in the after action report, the police and the firemen are going to need your testimony. They're going to need to know what happened in order to fully prosecute this situation. Okay, so just remember that. Thank you for tuning in again. This one went a little longer than I wanted it to go, but this is a pretty important topic. Questions, comments, let me know. Don't forget tonight is 0 hour, 8 o'clock tonight. Chance Paladin's going to be on with us tonight. And in fact, I have a question for the chat tonight. So if you tune in, and it's a technical IT question, so I will need help because I'm technically challenged. But again, thanks for tuning in.